Greetings, sir. I'm in a person of a J. Kosidum Kaka, group leader for Group A members of OBUASI Campus Business Administration. And we are here to illustrate to you on an assignment given to us to show or indicate or present in a video form to show the reason why even the educators are not able to think critically. Stay tuned for our class and stay tuned to be learned.
We are here to talk about an aspect of critical thinking on the question which states that if critical thinking is so critical to develop, why do people, even the educated, find it so difficult to think critically? We'll start with our introduction. Critical thinking is best understood as a disciplined, self-reflection process of actively conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information gathered from observation, experience, reflection, and reasoning or communication. And it is also said to be a combined skill set, an intellectual disposition of approaching problems and decisions that prioritizes evidence, logic, systematic analysis over intuition or emotions as a habit. In critical thinking, you need to identify any biases in any problems or situations, and it requires intact intellectual standards such as clarity, accuracy, and logic. The paradox: if critical thinking is essential to progress, if modern development relies entirely on objective, rational decision-making, why do human societies, specifically highly educated individuals, persistently default to irrationality, systematic biases, and dogmatic thinking? This is to the individuals who have spent 10 years schooling but still find it difficult. Our thesis: this paper argues that critical thinking remains difficult because human cognition is wired for mental shortcuts and biases. Educational systems prioritize rote memorization over analytical reasoning, and social structures reward conformity, while punishing intellectual dissent by examining cognitive, educational, and social barriers.
The case for critical thinking is essential in development. Critical thinking is very essential in our everyday life and matters across contexts. That is, in academics, critical thinking functions as the backbone of rational inquiry. It enables individuals to move beyond passive acceptance of information towards active interrogation and assumption of evidence. In governance and public administration, it supports policy analyzed by practitioners, evaluates the effects by ensuring that decisions can be justified and clear with logical reasoning that can withstand public scrutiny, and it supports accountability and transparency. In business management, it enables decision by equipping managers to evaluate competing strategies on evidence and not on intuition. Media consumption, it evaluates credibility of news source, detects and misinformation, and it distinguishes facts over opinions. Intellectual independence, think for yourself rather than accepting what others think.
For you on the barriers of critical thinking, that is the cognitive and psychological barriers. And there is, you have the confirmation bias. We seek what agrees with us. What is it? Tendency to search for, interpret, and recall information that confirms that we already believe, while ignoring the evidence that contradicts it. According to Daniel Kahneman, causes system 1 thinking, fast, automatic, lazy. It blocks critical thinking. Critical thinking demands you to test your own beliefs, but confirmation bias makes you defend them instead. An example is a student who believes all politicians are corrupt, will only share WhatsApp posts showing corruption, but scroll past posts about good policies. Even a non-graduate can do this with party politics.
One of the cognitive and psychological barrier is Dunning-Kruger effect. The less you know, the more confident you are. What is it? People with low ability or incompetent overestimate their ability or competence, while highly educated individuals might falsely assume their expertise in one specific field makes them experts in all fields. Why it brought critical thinking? If you think you're already a critical thinker because you have a degree, you won't question yourself. Intellectual humility dies. Example, a SHL graduate watch 2 YouTube videos in economic may argue more confidently about Ghana economy than economic lecturer because he doesn't know what he doesn't know. Linked to thesis, it explains why even the educator struggles. Education awareness of your own spot. So another barrier is status quo bias plus heuristic. Brains love comfort. What is it? Status quo bias, preference of things to stay the same. Heuristic, Mental shortcuts like if authority said it, it must be true. Why it blocks critical thinking. Critical thinking involves mental effort, uncertainty, and changing your mind. The brain resists to save energy. Example, students prefer chill and poor in Ghana because it worked for BEC or OBUASI. Questioning the lecturer. Note, feels risky and training, so they stick to the status quo memories and repeat.
So now we talk about educational and social barriers. Even if a brain could take critical, our schools and society train us not to. This session talk about educational system and social structures. Roots learning culture. Many educational systems like the banking model of education are stemmed by philosophy, Paulo Freire, where students are part container to be filled with fast for an exam rather than an active participant in critical inquiry. What is it? Education that reward memorization, recall, and repetition over question, analysis and creativity, chill and poor. Meaning students should answer yes or no questions with no room for debate. Why it blocks critical thinking? Critical thinking needs to talk. Why and how else? Roots learning teaches just write what the teacher said. 12 years of this creative mental habit that are hard to break in university. Example, from BEC to OBUASI, students are trained to memorize past questions. At K University, some first years struggle with discuss, evaluate, critical thinking, and analyze questions because they have never practiced reasoning, only recalling. Lectures say define, and students write definition verbatim. Linked to thesis. This is the education system prioritize memorization parts.
Traditional societal norms often view questioning elders, professors, or political leaders as a sign of disrespect rather than intellectual curiosity. What is it? Culture and classroom, where the teachers, lectures, elders is seen as the final source of truth, questioning them disrespect. Why it blocks critical thinking? Requires intellectual risks. You must challenge assumptions, including authorities. If students are punished for asking, why they learn to say silence. Pause. Example, in a JHS or SHS classroom, a student who asks say, but is there another view, may be told to just copy your notes. Even in university, some students won't challenge a lecture's fluid argument because of grade and disrespect culture. This shows how social creatures punish intellectual dissent.
We are on social conformity and echo chambers. Human beings are held to trouble. The psychological cost, disagreement with one's peer group of political tribe, often outweigh the intellectual rewards of being objectively correct. What is it? Social groups, WhatsApp groups, churches, political parties that reward agreement and punishes disagreement. You are accepted when you think like us. Critical thinking. Critical thinking must stand alone sometimes, but humans are wired for belongings. So educated people serve sensors to fit in groups. Example, in political, foot soldiers, WhatsApp groups, sharing criticism of your own party gets you insulted or removed. On campus, course mates who disagree with the class consensus keep quiet to avoid being called known it all. Linked to thesis, this is the society rewards conformity part.
We are now on the main body of the assignment, which states that why education does not guarantee critical thinking. Why is it that even the educated find it difficult to think critically? Perhaps the most troubling dimension of this paradox is that it does not resolve with a higher level of formal education. University graduate professionals, intellectuals are not immune to biases, self-deception, and logical fallacies. One key distinction between credentialism and genuine intellectual development. Let's define credentialism. Credentialism refers to the acquisition of qualification and the mystery of disciplined content, while genuine intellectual development involves the cultivation of habits of mind, curiosity, skepticism, open-mindedness, and willingness to revise one's views in the light of evidence. These are not the same. A person can earn a doctoral degree and a technical field while remaining deeply uncritical in their political and social reasoning. Education, we attain education for grades, not mind. If system reward grades certificate more than reasoning, students optimize for grades and genuine mental effort of critical thinking stops. The third party involved what Carol Drake in 2006 calls it what? Mindset. Duke's reasons and researches distinguish between a fixed mindset and believed that intelligence is immanent and unchangeable, and growth mindset, the belief that ability to develop through effort and learning. Critical thinking requires growth mindset. It requires the willingness to say, I might be wrong, to seek and discover evidence, and to change one's view in response to new information. But education system reward correct answers and penalize mistake, cultivate fixed mistakes, teaching students to protect their self-image rather than to genuinely engage with difficult ideas. Let's talk about what Matthew Limson said in 2003. It argues that critical thinking can only develop in what he calls community of what? Inquiry, an environment where questioning is encouraged, discouragement is respectful, and productivity. And the shared goal is underestimate and understanding rather than what? Performance. This states that in a critical thinking, whereby a society does not allow even the children to ask questions. In this way, it hinders them from thinking critically. Even the educated, they argue that even the educated, whenever they want to speak in a family meeting, that is why they will say that it means that whenever you want to say something, critical thinking what? Hinders your ability to what? To say something, because they assume that if you have grown, that is where an authority comes in. That is not it. These all things comes in together to hinder them from what? Thinking critically in our various community.
We are on pathways forward. Understanding why critical thinking is difficult is the first step towards making it more attainable. Several reforms at the pedagogical and societal levels can help close the gap between ideal and the reality. At the level of education, the shift from content delivery to process-centered learning is essential. Fier's theory, 1970, problem processing education, in which learners are invited to questions, dialogue and co-investigation reality with teachers, offers a powerful alternative to the banking model. At the societal level, cultures that value intellectual dissent protect the freedom to question and reward those who change their mind in response to the evidence are more likely to foster critical thinking as skill. Media literacy programs can equip citizens to navigate information environment critically, reducing susceptibility to misinformation and propaganda.
At the individual level, practices such as Socratic self-questioning, exposure to diverse perspectives, deliberate engagement with opposing viewpoints, and the cultivation of mindfulness can help to slow down system. 1. Thinking and create space for the more demanding work of system. 2. Reasoning can demand intellectual communities, whether formal or informal. The model and reward rigorous reasoning can serve as powerful incubators for critical thought.
In our conclusion, the paradox at the heart of this essay is a real and a serious one. Critical thinking is universally praised and universally practiced. This paper has argued that this gap is not accidental. It is arising from the biological architecture of the human mind, which default to fast, effortless, and aeroplane thinking. From deep-seated psychological mechanisms such as confirmation biases, cognitive dissonance, and the Dunning-Kruger effect. From educational systems that train compliance rather than inquiry, and from social environment that reward conformity and punish dissent. Education, contrary to institution expectation, does not automatically resolve these problems. It may, in fact, intensify them by equipping people with the tools to nationalize their
biases more persuasively. This distinction between credentialism and genuine intellectual development is crucial. What is needed is more knowledge, but better habits of mind. This emphasizes why even the educated find it difficult to think critically.